start your presentation. And thank you for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Josh. I appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Look, so I know it's late. We all have a lot of things to do. But first and foremost, if we're thinking about starting a business, this is the time to do it. And I'm hoping to give you some good information about it. My name's Alice Madrid Newman. I'm with Bank of California. I've actually been here less than a year, but I've been in banking for over 35 years. And so currently I work in specialty deposits, and I work with a number of clients, everyone from personal clients to business clients. I've been doing this a long time. Also, I want to let you know that my husband also started a business 40 years ago. His dad started the business with 36 cents in his pocket. So I know that it can be done. And I know that when you have the right team, it can be a whole lot easier for you. So what we're going to cover today, let me go to my next screen here. I'll try to do this quickly as well. We're going to talk about business banking services. And I just want to provide you an overview of what it takes to be a small business owner and how you can get the bank on your side. So what are the services that you should know about? What are the advantages and disadvantages? How to explain to business owners, like how to make a decision. Is this service good for me, or is this other service better? And then also you need to know the benefits of each of the services, as well as the benefit of forming a relationship with your banker, because your banker is going to follow you through the success of your business. I have had clients in my portfolio, in my book of business, for over 25 years. There's some businesses who have followed me. I've been with a couple of other banks. They followed me because I've known their business from the start. So that's going to be really important. I'm going to go to the next slide now. So this is the, let's see, the banking objectives. How do you know what businesses, services you should have? You know, some services can help you. Some services you might have, you don't even need it. So you have to really make a decision on, how do I know what banking services are good for me at this time? Because starting a business today is going to be different than in 2 years, and it's going to be different in 10 years. So the bank has to grow with your business, and you have to know about the services that it offers. So here's some banking essentials, okay? We'll start off with the checking account. You always have to have a checking account when you have a business. The checking account, generally you have at least one checking account, and that is going to be for all of your operating costs. So what's operating costs? It's going to be to pay your bills. You're going to pay your utilities, your light, your power, your rent. You're going to pay your vendors so that you can get services. You're going to pay suppliers. You're even going to pay your payroll. So some businesses have just one checking account. There are other businesses that decide to have two checking accounts. They might have their operating account, checking account, and they might want to keep their payroll separate. So those are things you want to think about. Do I want to keep it in one account, or do I want to keep it separate? What you want to look at as well are savings accounts. It may be too early to have a savings account right now, but anytime you have a little bit extra that you don't need to use for your business, I would suggest put it in your savings account, because you need to save for that bigger purchase. You might have a big sale that comes along the way of your inventory, and then you might want to buy more of that product. So let's just say that let's say you have a mechanic shop, and right now you're low on, let's say, a certain part. Maybe you're low on wheels, and so you're running out of wheels, but you've saved. And the supplier comes to you and says, if you buy 10 wheels, I will lower the cost for you. So you want to be ready. So if you have any extra, you might want to consider putting it in your savings account as well. Okay, the next slide, we're going to go into just some of the fundamentals, some of the services that you already use probably on your personal behalf, like you use the ATM, right? One of the reasons to use the ATM is that you don't have to go into the bank. Maybe you just want to use it on the weekends and the bank's not open. But some of the things you have to look out for is that they might have a cutoff time. So let's say your ATM, your bank has a cutoff time of 3 o'clock. If you go to the ATM at 4 o'clock to make a deposit, that won't be credited till the next day. So you have to think about that. What are the time frames to use the ATM for deposits as well as withdrawals? What about cash limits? Some banks offer cash limits of $300 a day. Well, if you need to pay someone, is that going to be sufficient for you, that $300? How about accessibility? Can you drive to the branch? Can you walk to the branch? Is the branch, the bank, is it close to your office? Is it close to your home? What's the parking situation like? Is it a parking lot? Is it a parking structure? Do you have to rely on the valet cards? Also, when you're looking for a bank, what kind of products and services do they have? You might run into a big bank. Okay, we kind of measure ourselves. The big bank like Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, Citibank, those are big banks. And yes, they have a lot of products, but maybe you don't need all those products. So you really have to look to see what bank offers the best product for me, as well as you want to look at the fees. On a big bank, the fees might be more, they might be less. So you want to take a look at some of those banking fundamentals, the banking services that are available. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail right now. Checking accounts for small businesses. So, you have an individual account, a personal account, right? And now you want to open a business. So you could usually there's two categories. One is small business and one is commercial business. And a lot of times small business are for the smaller companies. So let's just say you're just starting out. You don't need to get a big commercial account. You only need a small business account. The small business account, though, is going to be limited. Maybe it gives you 50 transactions a month. Maybe you can write 100 checks per month. Okay. And maybe that's enough for you. Whereas a commercial checking account, they let you write 300 checks a month. Okay. They have a higher balance requirement. Maybe you have to put in more money into the account. So you have to look at what are the differences between a small business checking versus a commercial business checking. And then again, do you want to open a payroll account? Do you want to open an operating account? Let me tell you one thing that comes up on payroll. A lot of people don't like to leave money in the payroll account because what if there's fraud? So sometimes the payroll accounts can be on zero balance. In other words, you have your operating account that has the bulk of your money. The payroll account has zero. But when you write the payroll checks, money automatically transfers from the operating account to the payroll account only to pay those checks. So that's another service. It's called a zero balance, and it's for your payroll and your operating account if you want to keep it separate, okay? Keep in mind, you should never mix your personal transactions with your business transactions. Please try to keep them separate. And why do we want to keep them separate? I mean, think about it. The personal taxes are different and business taxes are different. Bookkeeping. What if you get audited in your business? What if you have to pay taxes on your business? So you really want to keep your personal transactions separate from your business transactions. On to the next slide. I want to let you know about payroll services. So some businesses do payroll what they call in-house, and some of them do it with a vendor. You've heard of Paychex or ADP. If you do it in-house, somebody has to be the expert with how to do payroll. They have to make sure that they understand how to do the hours, who are the employees, do they have time off, how many hours did they work, what other deductions will they have? And then you rely on the person that you have to hire. It might make sense to hire a payroll company like ADP or Paychex. They have those people there. They'll take as little as one person on payroll, all the way up to hundreds. And so maybe it makes sense that you pay a little bit more, and the vendor, the payroll vendor, is responsible for your record keeping. They're responsible for your taxes to make the payroll. The other thing, when you have a payroll company, you usually have to have the payroll records ready for them sometimes 2 to 3 days ahead of time. So if your payroll's on Friday, you have to send them the payroll information by Wednesday. Whereas if you do it in-house, Friday morning, if you get the payroll records, then your in-house person might be able to write out the checks by Friday afternoon. But that's a lot of pressure. Those are things to think about. I can't tell you what to do. I'm only going to give you things to think about for your business. On the next slide, additional banking services. These are what we call cash management. So how do you manage your cash? So one is sweep investment or other sweep. So I do this a lot with my companies where they have an operating account and then they keep a target balance in the operating account. So they keep 25,000 or 5,000, whatever it is that we decide. Everything else goes into another account that earns higher interest. When the check gets paid, let's say you have a $5,000 target. If a check for $500 goes out, then money sweeps over to make sure that's kept back up to its target balance. So it's money that sweeps from one account to another to make sure that you have minimum in your operating and everything else goes into an investment account so you can earn a higher rate. Another cash management service is online funds transfer. Now, for online, you have to have the web. You have to make sure that you can do a lot of things on the online, on the laptop, on the computer. You can, sign on to the online account, get your account balance, your statement, very similar to what you're already doing maybe on your personal account. You can transfer money, you can pay bills, you can look at your account statement. Another cash management service is Lockbox. And this is typically for the larger companies, okay? The larger companies use Lockbox. You probably know of these, but never thought about it. So for example, your utilities, when you pay your light bill, your water bill, everybody pays it to the same address. Did you know that? It all goes into one mailbox, and then a banker goes out there. They take all the mail from the mailbox, they open it up, and then they start processing the payments. That's called the lockbox. So that way, you don't have to do it in your office. You sign up for lockbox service with the bank, and then the bank takes care of the lockbox, especially when you're receiving a lot of checks. This is for a larger company. The last one on the list is called Positive Pay. This is so important. I can tell you, Positive Pay is to help prevent fraud on your account. Okay, so Positive Pay is where you have written checks out on your operating account. So you wrote a check out to the light company, to the gas company, to your rent. You wrote all these checks out. You have to take that list and you upload it to the bank. Okay, it's a file that you upload to the bank. The bank gets it. Now, when a check comes through your account, it takes a look at the check and it matches it to the list that you provided earlier. If it doesn't match, it won't get paid. Or the banker will call you and confirm, do you want this check to be paid because it's not on your list? The reason that's good is that I've seen instances where checks have been stolen and somebody else has written the check to themselves, and it's the same account number. It's the same check number, the same account number, the same amount, but in the payee, they wrote the check to themselves. With Positive Pay, we check all that. We check the amount, the check number, the payee. We check all of that to make sure that it's supposed to be paid with your money. I'm going to go to the next page of banking fundamentals is your savings account and your certificate of deposits. So one of the things you remember on the checking account, You have checks that you can write checks easily. On the savings account, there are no checks. It might have a little bit higher interest rate, but there's no checks. You're going to have to go into the bank to make a withdrawal. So the pros and the cons, the pro is that it forces you to save. The con is that you have to go into the bank if you want to make a withdrawal. The pro is that the interest rate may be a little bit higher. The con is that you don't get any checks. Okay. Now with the certificate of deposit, sometimes you'll hear of this as CDs, certificate of deposits. Typically it's a term, a rate, and a balance. So let's say you have extra money, let's say $2,000. You don't want to spend it. You want to put it away for 1 year, and I can pay you an interest rate of 0.50 for 1 year. But what that means is you cannot touch that money for a whole year. If you do touch it, there's going to be a penalty involved, an early withdrawal penalty. So if you're not ready to save, then you're not ready for the certificate of deposit with the pre-withdrawal penalty. You might rather use the savings account instead. Okay, those are just two options when you're getting ready to save money. The next slide, let's see, talks about business account access. So how do we access our business accounts? How do we deposit sales with the remote deposit scanner? So maybe you've heard of this as RDC, remote deposit scanner. Okay, what this is it's a little machine. It's about 4 inches by 8 inches, really small. And it connects to your computer, whether it's your desktop or your laptop. It connects to it. And it has a little slide, like a credit card slide. But what you do is you take your checks and you slide those checks through it. And now you can, if somebody pays you, you can, instead of going into the bank to make your deposit, you slide it through the RDC machine. And the RDC machine connected to your laptop is connected to the bank account. And now you've made a deposit without going into the bank. You can make these deposits anytime. I have a lot of businesses. They close their office at 5. They didn't have a chance to get to the bank. So even at 6 o'clock, even at 8 o'clock at night or 6 in the morning, they can turn on the RDC machine and they can make deposits using the RDC machine. Keep in mind, there could be a time limit. They might, the business day on the RDC might close at 7 o'clock. So any deposits before 7 p.m. will have same day availability. If you deposit at 7:30, it's not going to go into the deposit till the next day. So you have to make sure that you know how it works, what the time frames are. Okay. Same thing with the online access. You can use it online, but it can only be accessed by the user. You have to have a passcode. You have to have a username. You can pull up reports. How much did I deposit? What would the checks look like? And so we can always go back and put together if you have a question about it. Let's go to the next slide here. Deposit insurance in depth. So FDIC insurance, you may have heard of FDIC insurance, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Every bank, you want to look that it's FDIC insured. Okay, credit unions are not FDIC insured, but they have a different insurance, that a company that insures them. For the banks, we're insured by the federal government, by the FDIC. It's $250,000 per account holder. So let's relate this first before we get to your business accounts. We'll relate this to your personal account. For every owner, if it's an individual account, you're insured to $250,000. If you have a joint account, you double that. You're insured to $500,000. If you have joint account, husband, wife, benefit of, or for benefit of my kid, right? Payable on death to my kid, it's going to be $250,000 $250, and then another $250 because of the beneficiary. So those are personal accounts. For business accounts, it works a little different. Sole proprietor is attached to your personal. So if you have personal accounts and you have a sole proprietor business, you have to count all the balances together. Okay. Now, what is a sole proprietor business? Let's say John Hernandez doing business as John Hernandez Mechanics, Auto Mechanics, doing business as John Hernandez Bookkeeping. Okay. Because we're using the first and last name with the business, that's a sole proprietorship. A sole proprietorship, it could be JH Bookkeeping. But when you don't use the first and last name, you have to have a fictitious business name statement. Okay. A fictitious business name statement will say Joe Hernandez doing business as JH Mechanics. So you just have to file that form. But remember that a sole proprietorship, the money in your sole proprietorship account, you have to count it with all your personal accounts, and all that together is insured only to $250,000. Okay. A corporation, no matter how many people work for the corporation, it's only insured to $250,000. A partnership account, even if you have 2 partners or if you have 10 partnerships, $250,000. Same thing with the nonprofit, okay, organization, only $250,000. Fiduciary accounts as well. There's a little bit of detail on the fiduciary accounts. And what is a fiduciary account? This is like an escrow account, or it might be a trust and estate account. So because we're talking about business, we could always come back and talk more about fiduciary accounts later. Let's go to the next slide. Additional banking services. So business debit cards and business credit cards. So these are really good to have. The owners should have, usually it's the owners who apply. And with the merchant card service, with the business, let me back up. With the business debit card, it's against the account balance. So it's not a separate credit. Okay, it's not a separate loan. So if you have $3,000 in your bank account, the debit card limit is only going to be $3,000. Okay, so pretty simple. If you don't have any money in the checking account, your debit card may not work. The other thing is you want to find out what is the maximum limit, because even if you have $1,500 in your checking account, the bank might put a limit to $500 per transaction. So you have to ask the banker, do I have a limit on my debit card? Okay, usually if you're an account signer, then you could have a debit card made out to you. You have to be careful for fraud. You have to be careful for losses, because if you lose it, the ATM debit card is usually one card. If it's over the weekend especially, they can go to the ATM machine and they can maybe pull out cash. They can go to a gas station, use it to buy fuel. So you have to be real careful with your debit cards and your ATM cards. The next one is the merchant card services. So merchant cards processing is where your company allows somebody to pay you by using Visa, MasterCard. Okay, so your company, whatever you provide, your customers are going to pay you. Okay, if you have a flower shop and somebody comes in to buy flowers, they're going to give you a credit card. If you have a repair shop, somebody comes in to get their auto repair, they're going to pay you with a credit card. So you have to go to a merchant processor. They're called a vendor. The merchant processor could be Elon, TransUnion. You talk to your bank, because sometimes the bank partners with merchant card services and they get a better deal. You could even go to Costco. Costco has merchant card services. Sometimes the cost is pretty good. So you have to look at that. But they issue Visa, MasterCards. They issue credit cards. Again, it's based on either your sales or it's based on your credit worthiness. They'll also issue debit cards. and they issue gift cards. So merchant card services is really important for your business. On the next slide, let's see, additional reconciling your accounts. So this is basically saying that you should reconcile your accounts at least monthly. So when you get your statement, whether you get it in the mail or you get it online, you should be looking at it monthly. I look at my personal bank account every day. My husband looks at his business account every week, but you have to know what's going in your account. You have to know what's coming out of your account. So when you look at your bank statement, you look at debits, what's going out, and credits, what's coming in. You look at the checks paid, verify what the amount is. What's the check number? Who is it payable to? Like I said, I've seen checks that they call it whitewashed, where they wash out the name and they put a different name in it, and everything else stays the same. I've even had a check that was not even their check. It was a business account with a different image of a check, and it didn't even make sense. So I've seen fraudulent checks come through. You want to be very careful. That's why you want to reconcile your accounts. You also want to look at your other fees. Look at your account fees. There's going to be a monthly service charge, maybe. There's going to be a check order fee. Maybe there's an overdraft fee. Maybe there's a non-sufficient funds fee. If somebody gave you a check to deposit and it came back because they didn't have enough money, they're going to have a return item fee. So you have to look at fees as well. Okay, the next slide. Let's go quickly here. Protecting your business from online theft. So this is, for everything, whether it's your personal account or business account, please be very careful with your passwords. Be very careful with your username. You should always sign off on the website. Make sure to sign off so that somebody can't come back in. There's a lot of fraud going on, especially on the computer. Make sure somebody, there's what they call cyber thieves or account takeovers. So I had an account takeover from one of my clients who's a doctor, and she was having problems with her laptop computer. She went online. She looked for Excel repair because she thought it was her Excel spreadsheet. She called them up. She let them get onto her computer. It ended up being a fraud. They ended up taking over her computer. They ended up matching the bank icon. And instead of her putting in her password, every time they signed on, they clicked the icon and it automatically went to her account. She lost money. And I hate to tell you, but it was a lot of money over the 4th of July weekend. And the reason is she wasn't paying attention, and she had an account takeover on the computer. So be very careful with fraud. Let's see, other bank services quickly that we'll talk about in future presentations, I'm sure. Commercial lending, if you've attended some of our commercial lending classes, how to get a loan, how to get a line of credit, how to get a small business loan, how to get a business credit card, some of the details on that, as well as, let's see, financing. You want to make sure to comparison shop. All banks are different. We can offer different rates as long as we stay within the compliance of the government, but everybody can offer different kinds of financing, different rates, different terms, different products. You want to be very careful and make sure to comparison shop. Maybe the large bank isn't right for you. Maybe a small bank right now is, or maybe a medium-sized bank is good for you. What I always say is go in, talk to the manager, or talk with the business banker, or talk with the front office person. You want to talk with someone who's going to give you an ear and listen to what you do. They should ask you, how did you start your business? What are your plans? What do you plan for this year? What's your plan for 3 years? So that they could help grow with you. They have to work with you. Remember, bankers, we don't get paid by the hour. We get paid to do our job. So you can call the banker up anytime and ask them questions about any products or services or loans or financing. Additional bank services, as you grow bigger, or even in your personal, you might have a retirement account, you might have a 401k account, a Roth IRA account, even a health savings account. And I can give you more details if you're interested, but if you have questions, or we'll have another class on this. And then also the 5 C's of credit. So your collateral, your capacity, right? Your character, you want to keep remembering all of that. Just make sure to do your homework and make sure that you're working with your banker to help you find the right products and services. So choose the right bank. What else? You want to make sure to shop around, look at other banks, keep your business and your personal accounts separate. And you want to take precautions to avoid fraud, especially online fraud is really big right now. And build a strong relationship, not just with your lender, I would say also with your banker. I don't do a whole lot of loans today. I do a lot of deposit accounts, but I know the story of all of my customers. They tell me where they started. They tell me where they're at. They tell me how they want to grow. And that's what's really important, is that your banker grows with you. And that's it. Let me find out if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alice. That was amazing information, a great breakdown of the presentation. I know you said 30 plus years experience, right? Working with banks, at a bank,
A lot.
different banks.
Yes.
I can definitely tell you have experience and you worked a lot of businesses. And that was very interesting that you said that some business owners even follow you no matter what bank you're at. That just shows um, uh, your loyalty to your customers and your clients that you serve. So that's amazing to hear.
Right. And I do agree that, some business owners, they don't want to keep going through their story. Their story is amazing and it's wonderful to tell. But when you go from bank to bank to bank, you really want the bank to grow with you. You don't want to have
Hmm.
to keep changing bankers and tell the story over and over again.
And that's important. You want to together grow. Yeah, that's definitely
Yeah.
super important. Super important. So we have a couple of questions. Some are submitted. Some have been also commented live as we're on Facebook and YouTube
Oh, good.
as we speak, actually too. So I'll go a mix of both, and
Okay.
depending on time, we'll see how many we can answer.
Perfect.
One of the questions that someone asked is, do all banks service small businesses, or is it just specific banks?
So, yes and no. That's a hard question because all banks have accounts. But you want to look for the bank that focuses on business accounts. They might be a consumer bank, but they might not. What consumer means personal, but they might not really have the expertise. They might open business accounts, but they won't be able to answer questions for you. So you want to see, do you have business accounts? So for the most part, yes, we all try to stay in the business forum, but some of them don't have the expertise. So that's what you want to look at. Look for the banker, find out how long they've been doing business banking, not just regular banking.
Okay, that's very, very good to know.
Okay.
And if I'm a business owner, who's the right person to speak about my small business when I enter a bank? Is there a specific, department or the person I should be speaking to?
So, things have changed in the last 35 years. A lot of things start online. So, if you're thinking, this is what I would say, if you're thinking about going to a bank, first do your online research and then look to see where the branch is close to you that you might want to talk to someone. They might have a business category, a business tab that you want to click on and see, well, who are they? Who are these people? Because you can research us before you actually walk into the bank. You can call us to say, hey, this is my business. I've been in business for 6 months or 2 years. Do you have someone who I can work with? So I would say try to do a little homework up front. Now, if you don't do that and you walk into the bank, typically when you walk in the bank, the first person you see at the desk is either you see the branch manager or you see the new accounts person. So go to one of those and ask who opens business accounts. If you just want to open a business account, that's different than if you want a business loan. So if you want a business loan, who does the business loans? Who opens the business accounts? Okay.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, thank you. That answers it perfectly. And someone asked, actually, right now, after you said that, as a business owner, what are some questions I should ask to find the best bank for me and my business? Is there some general questions that I should ask?
So yes, so I would find out, do you have, okay, so I want to open a checking account for my small business. Can you tell me about the small business accounts that you have? I'm just starting out. Okay. Or I've been in business for 15 years. I need a commercial, tell me about your product. So you want to know what checking accounts do they have? And then you need to look at the details. So they're going to give you what they call a disclosure. A small business checking account is like a cafeteria plan, right? You
Mm-hmm.
buy a ticket for a hamburger and you get a hamburger, french fries, and a Coke. A small business plan is like that. You're going to get 20 deposits a month. You might get 100 checks paid per month, and you might get, something else, but it'll already be a cafeteria plan for you. And you only have to keep maybe $1,000, maybe $200 in the bank in order to avoid monthly fees. So you have to look at what's the minimum balance that I have to keep in my account to avoid the monthly fee. And then if a small business plan, how many checks can I write? How many deposits can I make? And then also, what happens if I go below the monthly minimum? So those are questions that you are going to use to compare. Okay, one bank might have a 500 minimum, the other bank might have $1,000 minimum. One bank might have, a $20 a month fee if you go below it. One bank might have a $5 fee if you go below the minimum. One bank might have 20 deposits they're going to allow you. Another bank might have 50 deposits. So it all depends on your business. Do you need 50 deposits? I have a client where they do medical billing, and every person who's on the computer does their own deposit. So every day there's 20 deposits every day because there's 20 people that do medical billing. So the small business account doesn't work for them. So you can see.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully those
And
are 4 questions you can
yeah,
ask.
but those are great questions. I think that's gonna definitely narrow down what bank they end up choosing. And this is another good question someone asks: is what general documents would I need to bring with me to open a business bank account?
Okay, good. So if you're a sole proprietor, in other words, it's your name, doing business as, okay, if you use your first and your last name, then you don't need any other documents except your ID, just your driver's license or a state issued ID or a passport. If you don't have that, if you have um, you might have to, if you don't have if you're a registered, uh, what do you call it, a registered alien, you might have to sign a W-8 form. So you just need your personal ID though. If you're a corporation, then you need to bring your articles of incorporation. You may need to bring your certificate of good standing. So that might be something. And then, of course, your ID. If you're a partnership, you have to bring your partnership agreement. Okay. You always need to bring the tax ID number. So if it's your personal sole proprietor, you're using your own tax ID number. You could either bring your social security card. Sometimes they ask for it, sometimes not. As long as you know it, they're going to check it against the website anyway. Okay. If you have a corporation or a partnership or an LLC or an LLP, they can check it against the website. But there's the IRS form is called SS4 form, and that's where the IRS has issued your tax ID number. You should have maybe a record, like a binder, where you should have all that in there. You should have your business, we call it business entity documents. Okay, so if you're a sole proprietor, but you're doing business as great lawn mowing, or fabulous flower shop, you'll have a DBA, fictitious business name. You'll have your articles of incorporation. You'll have your partnership agreement. You'll have your state forms, your LLP 1 or LLP 5. Those are state forms. So those get into more details, but yes, there are some documents. If you have anything specific, I can tell you. If you whoever asked the question, I can tell you specifically if it's a corporation or partnership.
Mm-hmm. And if someone, small business owner, were to come and they don't have the sole proprietor, LLC, or the business type yet, do some banks help them set that up, or is that
They
something some
won't.
banks offer?
Yeah, they don't really offer to set it up because you can go online to set all that up. If you go on to, um, what is it? Secretary of State,
Mm-hmm.
SOS.gov, I think it is, secretaryofstate.gov. You can actually file documents there to register for corporation. You can look to see if there's a name available. For a partnership, is there a partnership available? Banks oftentimes use that SOC, I think it might be .ca.gov.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find it? SOC.ca.gov.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
and
sos.ca.gov.
yeah, so Secretary of State of California.gov. So sometimes we go on to that website to pull articles of incorporation or to pull statement of information. So that has to be filed.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I just looked up the website and
Oh, good, good.
perfect, perfect. We'll link it down below in the comments so if anyone wants to know. Perfect. Thank you. I think that's a great resource right there.
Yes.
Let's see. If someone asks if I ever decide to close my current business bank account and transfer it to another bank because I feel they serve me better, I'm assuming that's what they want to transfer it. Is the process easy, or have you dealt with that before in the past?
Yes. I mean, of course, I've dealt with that many times. Customers, when they find that their bank is not doing good for them, they're going to close their account. So, as a banker, I'm always trying to keep my customers happy. I'm always trying to anticipate what services they need. Otherwise, they're going to go to another bank. So, this happens all the time. But if you're going to do that, let me make a suggestion. The bank that you're considering to open, go there first and open the account. Okay? Get it set up first.
Mm-hmm.
Put the minimum balance in first. Get your checks and everything first. Because what you don't want is, is that you close the account before you have it set up already. You need to have it set up first. But also, you have to understand, like, why are you closing the account out? Like, what is it that they're not offering? Okay, so because sometimes they are offering it, but maybe you have to ask the question. Sometimes it might just be for customer service. They don't answer the call, and so those are reasons why we change banks. In my job, all the customers that I have, I'm assigned to all of them. So some of the customers will go in the branch is assigned. When I bring in customers, I'm assigned to all of them. So I have a portfolio of over 100 clients that I am responsible to call on. So you want to find a banker that's going to work with you, whether in a small business, because there's a lot of small business bankers that have what they call book of business portfolio, and they're
Mm-hmm.
assigned to work with you. So if you're just going in the branch, you might not be noticed. You might need to say, hey, is there a small business banker I should be working with? Do you guys have a small business bank department? Because I need more attention. So you have to look at that. But yes, definitely open the account up at the other bank. It's done all the time. So I'm
Okay.
not offended. I'm hurt when somebody closes my account out because what did I do wrong? I always try to keep it. So
That's good to know. Very good to know. Also for the business owners, good to know that they're not stuck if they're not
no, you're
like
not
they don't
stuck.
like where they're at. That's
But
good.
get
Good
things
to know.
set up first. That's what I
Yes,
said.
smart. That's very smart. Yeah, especially if you gotta make payments to some vendor or something, and these checks are not valid. Now you gotta switch over to those.
Exactly.
Yeah, very
Exactly.
smart. And you mentioned a couple of times that having a business banking relationship helps you grow, or you should grow together. How? Because someone asked, how can a business bank relationship help my business grow?
So this is interesting. So I've looked at businesses where they're just starting out and they need an SBA loan to start out. And so first we open up the checking account. No, those are the general. And
Hmm.
then we try to find out, well, okay, you need an SBA loan. So now I need your financial statements. I need to see what are your income and expense, what's your balance sheet? How much are you spending? How much are you making? What's your product line? Where do you sell it? What's your competition? How many employees do you have? Um, how much cash do you need each month? Do you have any savings? So I'm taking a look at, almost like I'm the business owner. I'm taking a look at all of that. And so when they come to me and say, I've got this great opportunity to have an SBA loan because now I want to buy another business. I want to buy a second location, or I want to buy more inventory. I don't have enough. I need more money. I want to use the bank money to buy more inventory for my company. So you have to show your credit worthiness, and the banker can help you, especially if they have lending background. They can look to see on your financial statements, where's your cash position? Do you have enough cash? Are you selling enough? Um, you know, really, the financial statement is like a portrait of you. It's telling the banker, what does your cash look like? What do your receivables look like? Do you have anything that's past due? So it's really taking a look at you as a business owner. And if I point it out to say, you have too much in inventory, or you have too much. I'll give you an example. I have one person that has, you have receivables. People owe you money. It's not a cash business. So you send out a notice 30 days. They still owe you. You send out a notice 60 days. They still owe you. You send out a notice 90 days. They still owe you. The banker, okay, you might be able to collect 30 and 60 days, people, but 90 days, that's a loss. The bank looks at it, nope, you're not going to collect that. So now I can look and tell you, hey, your 90 days and over is way too high. You need help here. Somebody has to do the collection for you. You're busy running the business, but nobody's collecting the checks on the back end. So you've got to always balance who's going to run the business, who's got the technical expertise, who's got the financial expertise, who can do the job. So that's running the business. Anytime a business fails, it's usually because of management. It's usually you're the manager, you're trying to run the business, you're trying to manage it, you're trying to do the payroll, you're also doing the bank account, you're trying to do too many things and you're spreading yourself too thin. So that's where the banker, I become your partner to help you identify this. And then when I see, oh, you know what, a credit card would be really good for you. We should apply for a credit card, or I can run the credit. You've got good credit now. This is the time to apply for this type of loan. So we can be your business partner as well.
I think
Does
that
that
answered it perfectly. Yeah, more than
okay?
answered. Probably other questions that people are probably going to be wondering and asking, and I think that was going to be the last question. I think there's a couple of more, but I know I want to be considerate of people's time because I know we're almost about to be in an hour in the whole presentation. But definitely, Alice will answer a lot of questions. If you just got here in the presentation, she answered a lot. She went through it all, so it's very, very great. Alice, if
I have
anyone here
somebody
has
here.
more,
If I can I answer
go.
one question? Because I
Yeah,
see
yeah,
here
go ahead.
somebody says, I maxed on my personal credit cards. I'll
Oh,
pay
go
them
ahead.
off soon. Thanks for the information. And I'm going to give you just a trick on the personal credit cards as well. Okay. Even on the personal credit cards, yes, you shouldn't have a ton of them. You should only have a few. But you also want to make sure you always have one extra that's 0%. So let's say you have 3 credit cards and one is at 19%, one's at 8%, one's at 12%. If you get a credit card that's at 0%, then you can transfer all that over. What that does, though, you're paying 0% interest, but now you're on a time frame. You might be on a 12-month time frame to pay it all off, but it's better to pay off the credit card than to pay the interest rate. The interest rate is the friend of the bank, not your friend. You don't want to pay interest. Okay, so pay off the highest credit cards first, not the highest amount, the highest rate. So look on the interest rates. If one's at 20%, one's at 15, and one's at 12, pay off the 20% first. So you have less going to interest, more going to the balance. Okay.
And there's what is that method called? Is that the snowball method or the
It's
avalanche? I
like a
was confused.
snowball. Yeah, it snowballs on you. So you got to be real careful. Yeah. But
Awesome.
that's okay.
If
Congratulations that you're going to be paying off soon. And
Oh yeah, great
that's good.
accomplishment. If anyone has specific questions or if they just want to know more about where you work or questions, is there how can they contact you? Is there
Oh, yes, I
just
should put that. Yeah, it's Alice Newman,
mm-hmm.
Neumann, and it's Bank of California, 818-449-4253.
And I can add that information after too in the comment section if anyone has a question. If you have a
Yes.
question specifically for Alice, comment down below and we'll connect you. But thank you again,
Oh, you know
Alice.
what? Here's one here. How much do RDC machines cost?
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, that's a good one because so depending on I'm going to give you three answers. Okay, the highest that I've seen is about $1,200. Okay, but you don't have to pay that. That's for multiple feed. In other words, a whole bunch of checks go through all at one time. The lowest one I've seen is about $350, where it's considered single feed. So you put one check through at a time. It's still fast. You just zip through. Okay. The cheapest one is zero. And how do you get that? If you have a good banking relationship and if you have balances in your account. So if you are a fairly good business, if you're just starting off, you're probably going to have to pay something. But if you have some money in the business account, all banks can always waive that fee also. So you always want to negotiate to see, how do I get the RDC machine cost waived? Always ask the banker. Everything's negotiable. Maybe I'm giving away the
Yes.
secrets. I don't know.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. All the secrets are given out. They're being spilled today. But I think we answered most questions, to be honest. I think that's most of them right there. I think that's all of them. We answered all the questions.
Good.
But yeah, thank you. Thank you again, Alice. Thank you to everyone that was watching. Again, please share this video with your friends if they have a business, they want to start a business. This is a great workshop for them. Establishing a business banking relationship, which is very important. The presentation she went through it. If you want to take a pause and just look over the notes and everything. But thank you again, Alice. I don't know if you have any final remarks before we end.
You know what? I enjoy being a banker and I enjoy answering questions. I always say this: I'm the only professional that you don't pay by the hour. The banker, you never pay by the hour. The attorney, you pay by the hour. The CPA, you pay by the hour. The banker can be your partner. You don't pay us by the hour. We just do our job.
And you pay a lot too. A lawyer, accountant, you're gonna be paying a lot.
Exactly.
It's not $20 an hour. You're talking about a couple $100 an hour.
Yeah, get a good banker and ask as many questions as possible because they don't get paid by, they're always in contact. I'm always in contact with attorneys and CPAs. So if I don't know it
That's
as a
amazing.
banker, I could find it out.
Yeah, and it's your job. It's you're getting
Exactly.
paid to do that, so it's not like you're volunteering. You're helping people out there, so it's your job. So thank you again, Alice. Thank you to everyone that was watching. I hope everyone has a great rest of their night. And hopefully this workshop it really inspired you to open that business bank account and start establishing your relationship at your local bank. Thank you again, Alice. Thank you everyone watching. Take care, everybody, and we will see you in the next workshop.
Thanks.